Thank you.
Fantastic.
To the class, could you give Deirdre a thumbs up if you can hear Praveen okay?
Yeah, we can't see the thumbs up, but we'll take it.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Okay, we're ready to go now for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. I think my support staff, Dams, as well as Sam, who's our spokesperson, he's on the call as well. I think it's, of course, a privilege to be presenting uLaw to your institution and hopefully find the best fit for us to talk about legal accounting, practice management, and really explore how it could be part of your students' journey as they learn these concepts, right? Typically what I do is I walk you through the overall program of the product, but just for today, I just want to make this a little bit more flexible and fluid. So I'd like to ask if you have any specific questions or any specific areas that you would like me to focus on or throw more light on so that I could use that in.
Yeah, there's going to be a presentation. Aaron Spicer-Boland has somebody lined up for the accounting, the legal accounting end of things. So I'm looking more for general practice management systems, part of the system.
Okay. So you are looking for another system to walk you through the legal accounting aspect then?
No, we've got somebody from uLaw. Aaron is somebody from uLaw.
Well, it's probably myself. Okay.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
We're on this week. Okay.
All right. So today, then I'll focus on the practice management component of uLaw, and then, of course, later this week when we have that second presentation, I can highlight of how that automatically overlays into the legal accounting requirements of the Law Society. Okay?
Sure.
Would that be?
If that's the case, should you go through that everything practice management slides? Then it might be easier for you.
Okay.
Yeah, you could do it wait away, but I was just saying, you already have that one, right? The everything practice management one. So.
All right. So as Dan suggested, let me go through this. This is, in fact, a CPD session that we typically deliver a few times a year, and it's been accredited for about an hour and a half of professionalism CPD credits. But in essence, it's a quick journey or walkthrough of the important steps that a legal professional needs to keep in mind and walk through as part of their day-to-day journey using either a process or a system to help mandate these steps, right? So we'll, from a product perspective, uLaw pretty much covers the three main bells and whistles that a legal practitioner needs so that she or he can be A, compliant with the Law Society's bookkeeping guidelines and for audit requirements, B, be top of their game to have a better understanding of the business efficiencies that they have in their own business, and C, truly be comfortable in their own skin using a system that's purpose-built to help them manage the legal aspects of their business, the financial aspects of their business, also kind of be ready for CRA and the Canadian regulations, if you will, for revenue aspects of your business, because you are running a business at the end of the day, okay? Within these three major steps comes the components of client intake, so that first touch point with your prospective customer, converting them into a real client or keeping them as a ghost client, and the whole 9 yards of walking that customer through a matter management, file management, and of course, generating bills, retainers, etc. Okay? So I want to start off with, so these really are the professional obligations, and I'll start off with how uLaw pretty much touches the first 3 to 4 components of this, and then in our next presentation, I'll kind of weave in how the legal accounting component occurs automatically. So imagine you're a legal office, you've graduated from your school, and you're starting your own business as an entrepreneur. You're, of course, spending a lot of money in marketing your service, the key areas of businesses, or areas of practice, as we call it, that you as a legal practitioner want to focus on. Could be small claims, could be contracts, LATB, whatever that area of focus may be. These, we believe, are a concise list of important obligations that we believe a legal practitioner should keep in mind. And I'll start off with the whole client intake, service, and communication aspect. So one of the Law Society's recommendations is anytime there is a conversation with a prospective client, that you as a legal business now have the obligation to ensure that a detailed recording of those initial discussions, consultations are taken care of, well documented and maintained. As soon as you've done that initial intake of getting the customer's information, you're doing the immediate right step of checking for conflicts, making sure that you're completely aware of if any there conflicts exist in representing that client. And I'm going to switch back and forth, so please don't mind me going back and forth between the presentation and our actual product. What you see here in front of you is our cloud-based, web-enabled application that's 256-bit encrypted, so it's bank-grade security. I've logged into my fictitious legal practitioner, Roger Moore. As long as you have the internet, uLaw is available to you both on a web presence as well as our own app that you can download on iOS as well as Android. And one of the first steps that you do, as I mentioned, is the client intake process. Okay, so in uLaw, we've encompassed the concept of contacts and clients kind of being a part of that contacts group. As a legal practitioner or a legal business, I'm sure you can appreciate you're going to come across various different types of businesses and individuals that you correspond with. Could be your own clients, could be other parties that are involved, could be vendors that you're dealing with. So there's different types of relationships of individuals and businesses that you come across. uLaw loves you to capture the contact information of all these various relationships and the people and businesses that you come across. And one of the fundamental types of contacts, of course, that makes a lot of sense, is our clients. So as part of that client intake, if I go ahead and say add to clients, I'm now able to quickly capture. So this is where I'm probably going to need some help so that we make this a little bit more interactive. Help me with a fake name, if you don't mind me asking for it, that we could use today as a client.
Mr. Way.
Mr. Way?
Sure.
Okay. I'm just being very, very silly today, so that's Mr. Way Lightinghouse. Very strong. All right. As part of the Law Society's requirements, and again, many times our customers don't recognize or realize this until they come across a uLaw presentation where we highlight that actually a source of contact is a Law Society obligation or document that's sometimes requested during an audit. It's also a phenomenal data point for you as a legal business to collect, to know where you're getting your clients from. So you could say, I'm getting this from mostly from referrals. And I'll click on the notes and I'll say referred by friend Henry. We have a spell check and you can hit apply. And if you have a correspondence address, which is part of that client intake process, you can go ahead and say Johnson Avenue, Ottawa. And we do request that you mark one of the addresses as a mailing address. This could be a home address, work address. And you can always click on this little add button and make this multiple addresses. And this could be the work address. But only one of them can be really a mailing address. Okay? Now, if you do have a phone number that you can capture from your clients, you can in fact utilize that phone number and call that number directly from the uLaw app. And at the end of that conversation, when you jump back into uLaw, we pretty much prompt you saying, hey, you just had that call with Wei. Would you like us to docket that conversation? Okay? So not only have we taken compliance built right into it, we're making it more convenient and efficient for you to be top of your business. Of course, you can add more information as you feel fit, email, website, whatever comes to mind. You could even put in an AKA name. So you can say that's Will. And in uLaw, you always click on the Save button. It's not an automatic save. We've been there. We've tried that with clients. It didn't work out. So we want to make sure that you're actually clicking the Save button to save this client. So I'll pause right now because I have the habit of just continuing to ramble away and ask if you have any questions so far in terms of how we quickly intook that client. Any questions?
We're just going to the chat to see if there's any questions. You clicked on this.
Okay.
So they're saying no.
Man, it is my day. I've made it so easy for everyone to understand how things are done.
Perfect.
All right, so there's quite a bit of practice management features. For example, you can pretty much list your clients based on first name. You can order them based on last name. So you can really figure out what that sorting is. And the whole personalization of this product, though it's a single product that's being used by several hundred clients of ours, the way you can easily personalize it to your own experience is by using our settings tab on the top right. Okay, so just a quick segue so you understand where you can do that. So this is where you can come in and you can say personalize it or sort it by first name, last name. You can see default sort by. And if I change this to first name, just to give you an example, and click save, the next time you refresh your contacts, all the names are, of course, sorted and listed to you based on the first name. Okay? Little things like that. All right, so we've taken some basic information, and let me go back to that presentation. So now that you've created the client, before you can go ahead and create a matter for that client, one of the important steps that the Law Society talks about is ensuring that you do a conflict search. So uLaw has that right away in the form of an action button, so an action that you can take right away. And conflict check is that particular immediate option. And we don't stop with a simple search. We actually empower you to do as a complex search as you possibly can. So you can even check if this name is something that you've come about in other dockets or matters, or if you've even created a matter for such an individual. Now I'll go ahead and hit conflict check. Now, of course, this is a practice database, and it can take a little bit more time, but typically in a law firm, if you're just getting started out, this information is available to you fast. And this is the power of the cloud too, is as that happens behind the scene, you can actually go ahead and do some other simple tasks as well. So for example, I'll draw your attention to a very important report that I believe legal practitioners should use, and in fact they are using today, that we see that within our clients. And that is the source of contact report. Okay? So you can choose on a whatever time period that you believe is right. So let me go ahead and choose the yearly option. So let's say this November 2nd you decide, I really want to know where am I getting my clients from? Because, you know, with the COVID and everything else, we really want to take a step back to assess where we are before we move forward. This is one such document that allows you to reflect on your past performance. So in a quick snapshot, uLaw tells you that since of January 2020 till date, this is really the spread based on the data that you've entered from where you're getting your clients. So 19% of the time you're getting it from family. You've got about 18% of your overall customers from referrals, some others, and then there's Facebook. So this is where you can start to amplify the investment that you make in certain marketing initiatives that you may have as a business. And of course, you can maybe make important next step decisions saying, hey, if word of mouth is only 9% and I really haven't invested heavily in that, what can I do to help grow that word of mouth business? And we also give you an important stat of the number of clients that you have not yet categorized. Right? So maybe at the time of client intake, they did not tell you how they got to know your legal firm, but maybe during the end of that file, they might just come out and say, you know what, we checked you out on Facebook, we checked you out on Google, and you can go back into the system. That's another important aspect of uLaw, is if you see there's Karen Fonda or there's John Cargill, you can go back and use our search. I'm going to go with, so you can see the search right here. That's another important aspect of a practice management system, is the ability for you to easily search for information. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the word Schroff. That was one of the clients that we did not understand the source of contact. You simply click edit. You can see the source of contact was not mentioned. You can say it was a community referral, click save, and done. It's as easy as that to be able to edit contact information in uLaw. Okay? We also make it easier for you to import contacts right from your phone book on our mobile app that automatically reflects into the web interface as well. And before I jump into the matters, I'm going to open up my conflict screening report. Okay, and I'm going to pause for questions after this. So here is the conflict screening report. Of course, you as the individual, the owner of this business, would of course need to be making an informed decision if they want to go ahead and represent Mr. Wei or not. We're not going to influence that, but we're actually going to give you the data points that allow you to make that informed decision. And as per Law Society's guidelines, we also date stamp it. That's an important aspect, is as of 2nd November, this is the information we know. So there's a Dwayne Johnson, so you can see the word Wei was captured from Dwayne, so it can be as granular and as anal as that. You've got, some Robin Hoods because of the whole lighting house. And you can see clearly there is no direct conflict because you don't have this name Wei Lighting House really show up anywhere. So now you're confident enough. So this is where I go back to my dashboard. A great segue to show you the benefit of that. So here you see one of the dashboard items being recently modified contacts. I can just click on Wei Lighting House, and it takes me right into that contact immediately. Or in this case, based on the speed of my internet. Okay. Any questions so far? So we've done a client intake. We've captured important piece of information about this client. Yes, I'm sure there's questions about driver's license, making sure this is really Wei. We'll get to that once we open the file. But for now, we've generated a source of contact. We've also generated, of course, the conflict screening. And now we're in a position to make a firm decision of moving forward, of creating a matter for Mr. Wei. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here because that really is everything that's being covered as part of your professional obligation is conflict checking, and then comes when you open the file, the next step, which is around service and communication. Any questions?
I don't have any. Nobody's hands are up.
I'm on a roll. Let's go.
Excellent.
Alrighty, so now we move on to the next real step, which is creating a matter or a file, like a real logical reasoning for this relationship between this legal professional and this individual customer, Mr. Lightinghouse. So in uLaw, we click on the matter button that you see here, but a prerequisite to creating a matter is that you first create the client. Okay. Once you create the client, you click on the matter button from the client's user interface to create this. And here you can create, simple label to really represent the nature of this particular matter. So you could say this was, this could be, Way was a Steffi, okay, loud house from neighboring house. And you can easily categorize this area of practice depending on the specific areas of practice that you focus on. And there's a real method to this madness. Why do we capture this area of practice? And I'll jump into it shortly. That's all that is to create a matter. A simple title so that you can easily understand what this matter was, and an area of practice so that at the end of the day we could tell you as your business product partner, where are you making your money? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And in uLaw, anything that's happening in the screen is reflected in the center of the screen. Unlike the spinning wheel that we traditionally used to, you have it basically saying it to you in English words as what the heck is happening on that screen right now. Okay? So it says it is saving the settings. And once those messages are disappeared, you know you have control over the screen again. First things first, we give you a file number that we auto-generate. We take the first name's first alphabet, the last name's first alphabet, and we hashtag today's date and time, because that's always unique to the second. And when we hashtag it, we get this unique number, because that's one of the Law Society's compliance rules, and which I'll walk you through real quick, is ensuring that the file number, right, is unique and is easy for you to search and is chronologically available as part of that file management obligation. So we've captured the important file management obligations, and every step of the way makes sure that it's taking care of that. So it has a unique number, cross-indexed, and readily available. Now, one of the concerns that we used to hear before, now that we have cloud and we have the greatest tools and technologies in legal tech, we don't hear that as much, but still is a bit of an issue, is the amount of time that a legal firm spends in searching for information. So if you are in that fix, uLaw has an answer for that as well. So we have this simple feature or menu option called Quick View. So at any given time, if you have any questions regarding any files that you have, or if you really don't quickly understand there was Way Lighting House, and all you know that it was some kind of a neighbor issue, you could just say neighbor. Okay? Just type in whatever you like. As long as that information was captured in some format within that file, we'll bring it to you. So you can see there's quite a few neighbor issues. And you can now sort this by date. You can click on this created on. It's going to first sort it by descending. And you can clearly see today as of 2nd of November, it's Way was a Steffi, loud noise from neighboring house. Tells you the client. If you add additional description, it can do that. If there's a court file number that you entered, that would bring it up as well. And the status is an important component. When I click on it, it takes me right into that matter. So in uLaw, we have 3 different statuses. We have active, closed, and archived. Okay? So if you click on Mark As, you can always toggle a particular matter once it's done from an active status into closed. But by default, when you open it up, it's an active file. Okay? So the quick view, once again, another practice management component which allows you to quickly search, navigate, and get into that file, which is an important file management obligation, is the ease in which you're able to search for these files. Proper organization through numeric and cross-indexing. All right, now comes an important step in this whole relationship that you have with your client. You've created the matter, but that's your own internal housekeeping. What's important is now a client-facing document that you have to generate. And depending on your situation, right, if you're a practitioner who, and let's say this is a client that you know, he's your best friend, you've just become a paralegal and or a legal practitioner, and your best friend wants you to represent, assuming Wei is your best friend here. And let's assume Wei is the plaintiff in the situation. It may so happen that you don't want to use the retainer. As much as we encourage all legal practitioners to use it, it might be a simple situation where it's a few $100s of fees and you kind of know this person, and sometimes it's a leap of faith and you're okay with just using your general account. So essentially doing the work and having the leap of faith that Mr. Wei will pay you for it when you do generate that invoice. Okay, so that's one aspect of it. And all these various combinations of how you engage with this client needs to be clearly articulated in this legal binding document called engagement letter or a retainer letter. A retainer, as the name sounds, of course, is where you're going to now use the retainer vehicle for financial management and transactions, which is you're now going to say, friend or no friend, doesn't matter, please help me by paying me a retainer of, let's say, $1,000. You're going to take that money before you even get started, right, and deposit it into a special account that are called the trust account, purpose-built for legal practices that you can go ask your bank. All banks are not familiar with this. So when you start off your business, you're going to get a trust account with TD, RBC, CIBC, or credit union banks. You're going to get another general account or an operating account. And when you look at a retainer letter or engagement letter, there's various different variations, for lack of a better term, to the words that are used, to the nature of the business. So how does uLaw help you and empower you here as a practice management tool? Under our document generation, which is really an overarching menu option for any document that you want to generate out of uLaw, we give you, to start with, various different samples. So an hourly retainer agreement, a contingency retainer agreement, some further samples, which you can click on and it's going to bring it up to you, a general retainer sample, POA retainer engagement sample. Okay? And the one cool thing about the whole thing is that you can generate this as a PDF or you can generate this as a Word document. Okay? It gives you the date when you're generating this template. It also allows you, if you're a growing practice, and if you have multiple individuals in the business, you can decide who is generating this document. And right away, we give you a Word-based document.
I've got a question for Deirdre.
Yep, go ahead.
Yep.
Is the class that is currently watching this, will it be the same group revisiting it tomorrow to analyze the legal accounting component?
Yes, it's our second year group. Same group.
Okay, just curious about that.
Yep.
Okay. So here you have a very detailed document that pretty much tells you the obligations of the customer, where should the trust funds be, right? It tells you all of that information. You can either use this template, and the good part of generating this as a Word document is that you can essentially tweak it or change it.
Sorry,
Okay.
we've got a question here, Sean.
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry,
go ahead.
You can hear me, but when you subscribe to uLaw, this template that you're showing us right now, is there sort of like a suggested already embedded in uLaw, and then we can kind of take away from and manipulate it?
Exactly. That is correct. So there's various different templates that we have. Yes, and you're absolutely correct. I like the way you worded it. It's already embedded into the system, And these are suggestive templates that we help you getting started. And so you have retainer samples, contingency. So if I choose an hourly, for example, it's a different template. I can choose my MS Word. I can say it's a mail client. I can say what my disbursements are, how much is my engagement fee. And as part of our onboarding session, typically when a client signs up for a 30-day trial, we do a full-fledged demonstration of our product, and we walk them through how best they can utilize this feature. And you can see one of the important things we do, and again, it's a time saver, really, is we embed the important pieces of information saying, this is an engagement retainer letter for the matter Way was a Steffi. This you didn't have to enter. We brought it in right away from the matter number automatically embedded into it. This is Roger Moore's information, and here's Way Lighting House's mailing address, the file number, the file name, and this is where it gets personal. So you could basically say, I don't like all this, and essentially just delete it if you like to, and essentially sign this. And it's, again, a time saver. It just helps you get started. Okay? So the retainer letter, especially explaining your obligations both from your end to the client and the other way around, is very important as part of your professional obligation when it comes to service and communication. And let's assume you have signed. I'll pause right here to ask, would you like me to show you because the team that's going to be participating tomorrow is the same team that's in today, can I show you an example of how you accept a retainer into trust so that tomorrow we can see how that automatically translated into the legal accounting components? Or or do you want me to just use general accounting today?
No, the first option sounds good.
Okay, fantastic. Let's assume that Mr. Way is a friend, but you still have pressed upon him to pay you a retainer. You've done the client intake. You've done all of the back office work that you actually have to do as a professional obligation, and you've created a file. And now you can either, after Way is on his way, having paid you or waiting for your payment, there's a few things that you as a legal firm can do. For example, you can quickly generate certain compliance documents or a client ID verification. So you could say, all right, here's a client ID verification. You can scan their driver's license. And within the matter, you have this tab that we call Documents. And what uLaw does is that it connects with third-party cloud-based document storage systems, such as Google Drive, OneDrive, whether you're a Google fan or if you're a Microsoft fan. And now it connects the uLaw system through the means of this file number into that Google Drive. Okay? If I were to go into my drive, I probably already have the Google Drive here, so I kind of apologize. This is where it's kind of a bit of a back and forth, but we've stopped where we've signed let's assume we've signed the agreement letter, and you're starting to save a few documents into this particular file. This is where it comes handy. So what you have to remember is the file number itself. So you have WL39507. And you notice that uLaw has automatically created, by connecting with Google Drive, because I have Drive connected in my settings, so there's no magic here. In the Matter, I've basically said all my Matter documents needs to be connected to Google Drive, and when I clicked on the Matter and I clicked on the Documents tab, it prompted me to enter my username and password to connect with Google Drive, which I did. I'm using my company, Praveen Srinivasan, at uLawPractice.com. That's the Google Drive. And it's connected here, and it's created that folder, and it's now available for me to utilize. So here's that document that I just generated for conflict or in terms of client ID verification. I can essentially drag and drop that. Not sure if I have a driver's license. I should have done a better job of cleaning this, but you can essentially take any document that you have here, and let's say this is the scanned copy of your driver's license. You can drag and drop that into this system as well. And as you do that, and I'll show this to you tomorrow for sure, you're going to see that right under that file, those documents start to show up. And you can even click it right from within uLaw, and that document is now opened right with your Google Drive. Or if this is OneDrive, it would be OneDrive, so it has the information pre-populated. So you could say whether you got your client's driver's license, birth certificate, what did you actually get to validate that this is truly Way Lighting House. And if you have Way's driver's license, you can essentially scan it and drop it into Google Drive. Okay, so the whole aspect of paperless office, cloud-based document management is enabled. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we've connected with some of the leading players in this business. So let's assume you've signed the retainer letter. Of course, you can generate that document, have it signed, upload that into the same file like how we did this. And the next step really is following the financial trail. Anytime someone pays you money, whether you're putting it into your trust account or your general account, depending on, sorry, are you guys with me? I thought I'd lost someone. Okay.
Can you guys still hear?
I can hear you.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. Let me keep continuing. So in uLaw, once you've created the matter, you're going to see a bunch of tabs. And each of these tabs have a specific meaning. And again, we're either following the English labels, which says disbursements retainer, and you can see there's a button to now enter that new retainer that you received. So uLaw, as any other bookkeeping system would like, wants you, the user of the system, to input or tell us anytime money has either entered or left a specific business account or bank account under your firm's name. And now comes the important aspects of the details. The devil is in the detail for sure, because many of these details automatically translate into a very specific format required by the Law Society in the form of ledgers and journals. So in a ledger, they do ask you for when did you receive that money. Not only is it needed for that, it's also for your own compliance reconciliation process. So let's say that we got it today. Let's say we got $1,000. Now the next question is, how did Mr. Way pay for this? So this could have been a check, it could have been a direct deposit, a bank transfer, electronic fund transfer, email transfer, and a reference if you have it. And this is important because now you're telling uLaw which trust account in real life has this money already deposited or going to be deposited. Okay? And you can see it's $1,000. You give the client a receipt, a very important recommendation by the Law Society. And you hit apply. Of course, from a practice management convenience, uLaw also integrates with third-party payment gateways. So for the more modern legal practitioner, if you want to accept that retainer through a credit card and you want to offer that as a part of your service to your clients, we facilitate that. We integrate with at least 4 different companies such as TD, Pivotal, Global Payments, and Moneris. And we, of course, introduce you to these companies, and depending on who you choose, depending on the rates, we're now able to integrate. There's no additional cost to uLaw for that. And here is a retainer receipt. Okay? As soon as you generate that, I'm going to drag and drop that retainer receipt into that folder. Okay. So the client's paid you $1,000. The money, as you have indicated, is in $1,000 is deposited into the retainer account, and you've given the client a retainer receipt. Now comes the next steps that you as a legal business have to do to earn that money, right? You establish the ground rules, you've established the client, the retainer, and now you get to work. Do what you do best. And this is where it gets interesting. Depending on the type of retainer letter that you have signed with this client, this could have been a billable time, this could be a complete flat rate or a fixed rate business or docketing style. It could be a combination of billable and fixed rate. So this comes down to your individual personality and how you have set up this matter and how you want to conduct business with this client, right? So uLaw pretty much facilitates various types of docketing. Contingency-based, flat fees. The entire matter can be flat fees. So let's assume that this entire matter is flat fees plus disbursements. So you can essentially capture the date, the time, the actual event, what was initial, you can say, let's make this interesting. Initial Zoom call. So you can click description, you can say initial to discuss matter, retainer agreement signed, retainer receipt delivered. Okay, so this is where we allow our clients to really expand so that it makes that invoice very meaningful, self-explanatory to the client, to the end client. We allow you to capture the actual time that you spent in this particular docket and how much of time you're actually going to charge your client. So you can charge, say you spent an hour, you're going to charge that hour. Or if this is a complete flat rate, we'll leave it at 0. And let's do another event. So at 9 a.m. you had that initial meeting. Let's say at 10 a.m. you had court visit. Again, I'm just making this up. I'll bulletize this. Now we have this concept of toggle. So next to billable time, you have this little arrow. And if you click that, it toggles. And the first option is clicking on flat rate. Now what happens when you choose flat rate is that this entire docket has become a flat rate docket. So rather than putting the time in, you just put the amount. Okay? Or in this case, let's make this 0. And I'll show you how we represent billable and flat rate zeros. And let's say when you're ready to finally bill this client, you're going to say final closure, all work done, Invoice. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. Now you can toggle this final docket and essentially ask for whatever is your flat rate fee of $700 plus tax and click Save. So essentially what have you told uLaw? You've told uLaw, your bookkeeping system, that you've received $1,000 in retainer and you have different types of docketing. You've done an initial call, another court visit, and a final closure for $700. And that's why it says $700 plus tax is $791. Of course, if you don't have tax, you can just click on Edit, and you can make the default tax rate for this matter as 0. So let's say you're just getting started, you're not collecting taxes. We pretty much facilitate that as well. So then now you're going to see this change to 700. There you go. But we of course recommend that you add the taxes. By default, this is set to the jurisdiction that you belong to. When you sign up for a 30-day trial, we ask you which province do you belong to, and we automatically set it up in your taxes rates in your settings. So let's leave that as 791. Now let's say there's a disbursement in the small claims matter. As the label sounds, disbursements, you can say add new disbursement. And we do these webinars on a regular basis. But just so you know, as a legal practitioner, I'm sure you're already aware, you could either pay for these disbursements right from your trust account, or you can pay it out of your general account and then do the trust transfers. Okay, so there's two ways of using the trust account for paying disbursements. Either paying it out directly from trust, or if there's money in your retainer, pay it from general, and then transfer invoice and do the trust transfer. So I'm going to just follow the general. So let's say I've paid it off my operating account rather, and I click on general. And I say application fee of $200, tax exempt. Well, let me just round it out to 209. I'll say, who was this paid to? Ministry of Finance. How was this paid? Did I use my operating account, which is TD? Or sometimes if you have used your personal money, we're flexible for that as well. You can park that under our owner's pocket. Now this is where it's not Roger Moore's legal company that has paid for it. It is actually Roger Moore, the legal practitioner here. He has paid for it, and your business now owes Roger Moore that $209, okay? So I don't want to confuse you on a Monday afternoon, but I'm going to stick to you using your general account, and maybe you wrote a check. You can even print that check from uLaw. The top part is the disbursement to the client, and then you should see a little line here. And the bottom part from that line is your business accounting, is you as the legal practitioner telling your own business as to how you actually paid for this. These are two different products in the marketplace today. One is a legal accounting aspect, the other is a business accounting aspect, and we've combined it into a single user interface, and that's one of the power of the uLaw product. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save. So you have dockets, you have disbursements. Of course, for purposes of today's demo, I'm not doing an interim bill. I'm just assuming that every fees and disbursements are all captured in this one bill. And here's where you can print the check. We give you a PDF where the remittances are at the top, and you have the complete check leaflet at the bottom, depending on the type of checks that you purchase from the bank. Again, part of our settings, we can adjust this as well. And now you can see the projected balance being 0. It changed from 1,000 to 209 because there was 791 in legal fees and 209 in disbursements. Two last steps in this whole 9 yards is really generating the invoice. Okay, any questions so far? I've accepted the retainer. We signed the retainer letter. We accepted the retainer as 1,000. We did dockets, disbursements, and I'm about to generate an invoice. I'll pause for any questions.
I just had a I didn't put my hand up there, but I just had a question about going back to your templates, like the retainer agreement, non-engagement agreements. When you template those and get them all filled in, is there like does uLaw provide like an e-signature service where it sends it out to the client directly through the contact management in uLaw, or do you do that sort of separate from uLaw?
So these templates, okay, so multiple questions there. So you are able to upload your signature into uLaw. So if you have a digital signature, you just come under help. You can see you can either upload your own logo or what we call a letterhead. You can do both. You can have a logo as well as a letterhead or what we call banner. We just give you guidelines for what the size requirements would be. Likewise, you can just sign your digital signature, or I think it's more of an electronic signature or a digital signature. Sorry, you sign it, you take a photocopy of it, and then you can upload that signature. So let me see if I can generate a document to show you that. So let's say I do a retainer letter. Now, in terms of the template itself, I know where you're getting at. I mean, you can't necessarily tweak these words. The templatization is not yet available in the product, but if you have a certain template and you want to bring it into the uLaw system, we are able to do that, and we do it for all our clients at no charge. So this is where you would have your letterhead. This is where you would have your logo. And this is how you would digitally have your signature signed off once you've uploaded that digital signature.
And then for receiving the client's signature now, and I may have missed it, I can't pick up on everything you're saying, but to send now this to Mr. Way Lighthouse for signature, does uLaw have provision for that?
Not yet. So this is where we're going to rely on some of the other aspects of legal business that you could utilize. So ideally, where we end this is you composing an email to Mr. Way Lighthouse and essentially sending that retainer letter. Right? So you essentially send that.
For the signature, but you can definitely send it off for signature. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So I mean, you can do all of this within Google Templates, right? So you can templatize each email. So generating the document is where I think logically our responsibility kind of ends, and then because every legal firm is different in how they want to operate. Some of them want to print it and mail it. Some of them want to, of course, use their own emailing system. Some of them may have their own portals that they've invested. You may have Google, someone else has OneDrive, and OneDrive automatically allows you to generate links to send to clients. So there's a plethora of options of how and best you can utilize that PDF document.
Right.
So the last two steps, of course, we've generated we've put the dockets in disbursements. I'll go ahead and do an invoice. And we also have this beautiful option called pre-bill. We highly encourage all our clients at all times to use this so that you can catch an error before generating an invoice. It's a very proactive step. So you could see this is what a typical invoice may look like before you send it to the client. It tells you initial Zoom call, and you can notice the difference between making a billable time 0. So the first docket was billable time, but you still made it 0. When you make a billable time 0, if you like, because some law firms like this, they want to tell their customer how much would have they ideally charged if this was being charged on an hourly basis, and the good Samaritans that they're being by not charging you for it. Some customers don't want to do all this. They're just going to be like, it's 0. So if you want to represent just the detail of 0, make it a flat rate 0 in uLaw. If you want to highlight to your customers that what the unit rate is, make it a billable time 0. And I just wanted to highlight that example. And you can see that there's the start and end time shown because we do legal aid billing as well. And it's a simple setting change. Let's say you don't want to do that. You look at this pre-bill and you're like, I don't want a client to know, all this timing. You can just go in your settings, go right at the bottom here. You can say show start and end time invoice. You can say no. It's that simple as that, right? And you can go back into the matter, and now let's say that's the only thing you wanted to change. You can go back into the matter. If you're happy with that pre-bill, you would go ahead now to generate the invoice. So you would now say, instead of pre-bill, you would click on invoice, and then you would click on the invoice option, or the complete option, sorry. The complete invoice pretty much picks up every docket and disbursement that had not yet been invoiced, wraps it under this one invoice document, and you can email that little snippet of the summary of this invoice to your email. You can change the date, and I will go ahead and you can choose your default theme. And we have about 10 to 15 different user templates for our invoices. And this is the only place where you wait and you click on the download button. You can see it's saving that information into the matter. And once it's ready, it's going to show the download button in green. You click download, drag and drop that invoice. And here's that final invoice. Now you can see the start and end time is gone. It has the basic information, and this is a running bill. That's one thing we like. Here's the disbursements of application fee of $209 without taxes. A retainer, so it tells the client a complete history of the financial transactions that have occurred within this matter. An email transfer with that reference number was done on the 2nd. And you can, of course, put your own terms. And there it is. Okay? All right, so once you've done that, the final step to make your own money as the legal firm is to do the trust transfer, as you probably know. And we click on this question mark where we tell you the amount of money that you can transfer from the trust to general called the eligible trust transfer. And clearly you can see that $791 of legal fees and $209 of disbursements. So this is important because the amount is important. You can't randomly transfer, $2,000. You can't randomly transfer $800. You can either transfer $791 or $209 or a combined $1,000. Okay? So I'll go ahead and I'll choose both these for now because I want to transfer them both. Moving it from your trust account into your general account. And in Ontario, if you do an electronic fund transfer from your trust account into your general account, the Law Society requires you to fill out what's called as a Form 9A, which we have readily available. You just need to put the address of the bank, download it, drag and drop it into that Google Drive folder. So at the end of that matter, if you go into your Documents tab, you're pretty much going to see the chronological history of all the documents that you've generated and stored right for this matter. So you have those 4 documents show up. Okay? And you can collaborate between Google Drive and uLaw too. And with that, you pretty much are done with this matter. This is where you can go in and say mark as closed. You can generate any complete final documents. You can say here's a settlement statement or a statement of activity. You could generate a closure letter. So here you could say, again, we have various different samples, as you can see, that you can generate in Word or in PDF. Power of attorney, client matter closing letter. You can sign this, send this along with the settlement statement or statement of activity, if that even makes sense, or just bring a logical closure to this matter. Okay? I'd like to pause here because I'd like to focus, of course, tomorrow's session in two things. We have the automated court form filling feature for small claims, which I'd like to focus on. This is a great initiative of uLaw. So you can quickly type in the courthouse. How are we doing for time?
We're okay. We have until 1:50.
1:15? Okay.
1:50. We have until 1:50, so we've got lots of time.
Okay. Then let me just take just another 10 more minutes because I'd like to not over bombard you, and I know we have another session tomorrow. I'd like to focus on the court forms filling. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're showing us the court forms. I'm just wondering if you could show us all the forms that are available, or give us an idea of all the forms that are available, like the residential landlord-tenant forms. Are they all on this software also?
Yeah, let me show you the court forms. So, of course, there's letters. These are documents that you generate that are client-facing. Any questions with just the dockets, disbursements, invoicing, and trust transfers before I move into the court forms?
Okay, go ahead.
Me again. Yeah, with regards to accounting, I'm not sure how to ask this question because it's new to me, but let's say you're about to make a transaction in uLaw that is not compliant. Will uLaw like raise a flag and say you can't do that, shouldn't do that?
Absolutely. So at every step of the way, we control you from not being compliant by either restricting you or throwing a flag saying, that you're not allowed to take a payment. For example, you can't just accept a client payment right now. You're going to see that you can't accept a client payment because there's no active invoice to accept that client payment against, right? Unless you're going to accept a retainer into this matter. So that's how we typically restrict data entry errors and non-compliance. But yes, either by restricting or by throwing a flag or a message box, we prompt the user about compliance requirements.
Okay, thanks.
So just as a recap before I move into the court forms, we created a client Way Lighting House, right? We did the conflict search. We generated the source of contact report. We created a matter for Mr. Lighting House. Now, if you want to create another matter for Mr. Lighting House, you can just essentially click on the action button and create new matter. There are many different tools that help you optimize this. So if you've done a very successful small claims matter, you can copy that matter as a template for every other new client that you bring into uLaw. So you don't have to repeat yourself every time. So if there's a standard set of protocols or disbursements and dockets that you have, for typically, real estate, for example, there's set standards. For small claims, you could decide 2 or 3 dockets, 2 disbursements. Of course, the amount, the nature of it would change. You can easily change that. But again, it saves you time. If you want to create another matter for the same client, you can do that. There's quite a few options. You can add a discount to an invoice. You can reverse an invoice. Unless you have not yet done the trust transfer, you can write off payments, provide a refund. You can return a retainer. So anytime there's extra retainer, you can refund that retainer as well. All that under the action button. Alrighty, so now let me go into my court forms. And the last thing, you can always click on this question mark and get a full snapshot of the financial situation of this matter. So even if you know nothing about this, if you click this, you get a better idea, which says, as of today, there's one invoice for $1,000. An initial $1,000 was deposited into trust account. The complete $1,000 was withdrawn from trust. The dates. What was the invoice amount for? How much was it paid? So you can generate a trust ledger. This is for your eyes only. This is not the compliant document. If you really want to quickly look at your general ledger, you can see that there's 791 and another 209. And if you truly want to generate a ledger document for this specific matter alone, you can do that from statements. This would be very specific to this matter only. If you want to do it for your overall business, we have another place to do it. But this is a Law Society compliant trust ledger statement for this particular matter, which tells you that $1,000 came in, there's 209 for disbursement, 791, leaving you with a trust balance of 0. Document generation, statements, general. So as you enter information, all the appropriate documents are automatically generated. So you can see there's a legal fee invoiced, invoice number 3306, 791, and part of that 3306 invoice was another transaction for disbursement for 209, and that was moved into your general account through this trust transfer. And that's that. All right, so for court forms, we do this specifically for Ontario and for certain court forms in New Brunswick. So we have small claims, LATB, POA, HDA, WSIB, Accident Benefits Tribunal. I can show you small claims today. And you can see we have additional parties, 1A, 1B, affidavit of service, notice of motion, and again, if there's a specific document that we don't cover, we're happy to bring it in, because that's one of the important aspects of uLaw. We're not perfect, but we have a great product that's fluid enough to quickly accommodate new improvements to the system. Okay? All right. So before you generate court forms in uLaw, it's important, as I mentioned earlier, to develop a relationship between the various different parties that are involved. So what does a court form contain? Typically contains people, contact information of what this matter is for, who are all the parties involved in a matter, right? So if you look at a plaintiff's claim, it's looking for the plaintiff's information. There could be multiple plaintiffs. If it's and then it's looking for the defendant, and it's also looking for the defendant's representative if there's one. It's looking for the plaintiff's representative information as well, right? So what we did was, instead of having to fill out these court forms, some of this piece of information you've already provided us. And if you can provide us with some additional information right within the matter, it not only helps for court forms, it also helps improve the conflict searches. So we now go into this concept called additional parties, right, within the same matter, and we start to add parties. If I were to go and hit add party, uLaw wants to know, okay, what is the party type? So let's say this is a defendant. The minute I add defendant, uLaw is smart enough to know that Wei is the plaintiff. Let me go ahead and search for Steffi. Now, where does this information come from? It comes from our contacts. So the prerequisite, of course, is to be able to add that contact into our contact database, just like how we added a client. Okay? So going into contacts and then saying add new contact. And you can see we have a few groups called defendants, plaintiffs, representatives. So this is not your client. You can say add new contact and add that to the defendants group. And you can say this is Stephanie Larson. Let's just call it. Yep. Okay. Say Midway Crescent, Ottawa. Of course, makes no sense because the context of this matter, but bear with me. So this is the prerequisite, that you do store that contact's information, and you can group them as defendants, or you can just group them however you like. We've just given you a group to add it. You're going to see this defendants group move from 39 to 40 once this information is stored. Okay? And now this information is now repurposed within a matter, and the relationship is built between Stephanie, the contact, and Way Lighting House, another contact, but of different party types. As you can see, people have come up with some very interesting names. I don't know anybody who would call themselves Gorilla, but you never know. Okay. This is the prerequisite that you have this contact information, because you need to enter it anyways into a court form if you need to. Now let's go back here, and I'm going to say add party. I'll say defendant. I'll search for Stephanie. Here's Stephanie Larson. I click save. And now let me add the opposing party. Let's say Stephanie has a paralegal representing her. That party type, the legal lingo, is called representative of the opponent. And let's say that is Boris. Now, if there are multiple defendants, you can now add another defendant. Or if Boris represents all the defendants, then you add all the defendants and the representative of all those defendants at the end. Okay? You can always change this. You can click Action, Edit Item, change all that. But if you like, you can add additional parties. But for purpose of time, let me go into court forms, small claims. I'll choose the type of form. I'm going to say it's a plaintiff's claim, or it could be a defendant's claim. The courthouse you're going to, if you have a claim number, you can put that in as well. And you hit download. Now what uLaw pretty much does in the background is we do our best to look at the court forms on the individual websites and try and update them as recently as they have been. And we typically take I believe, 2 to 3 weeks service level agreement with our client, saying if it has been updated on the courthouse website, we take a week to 2 weeks to update that in our system. And let me open that document for you. And here is the plaintiff's claim document. It clearly sees the small claims court is in Ottawa at this address, phone number, has the claim number as well, has the plaintiff's information, Way Lighting House, Johnson Avenue, his AKA name. It's got his representative, Roger Moore. That's us. You've got the defendant, Stephanie Larson, with her address, with her AKA name. And you've got her representative's information. And mind you, this is just a Word document, so you can always edit this. We just give you a starting point. Of course, saves you a little bit of time and effort instead of having to enter all this information again and again. Most importantly, if a mistake was made, it just makes it easier for you to change this. And you can always attach a Schedule A if you want to expand further. November 2nd, 2020. So that's how the court forms work. If this was LATB, you would then have this as the tenant, for example, instead of the defendant. So let me just change. Right, I hope you're still able to hear me okay. Hello?
All
Yes.
good here.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. I'm just going to wrap with this. So LATB forms. So let's say it's an application to evict the tenant. So let's say assuming you or Wei is the landlord here. And again, LATB, it's a very interesting template. It uses a PDF form, right? So uLaw accommodates the filling of information into this PDF as well. Again, these are all editable. This is an editable PDF, just like how it's on the website. Did you give the notice? Yes. Are you applying? Right, you can just check. And here's the information, the rental unit being covered, Midway Crescent, wherever the tenant is living. Stephanie, here's the landlord's name, exactly written, Way Lighting House. Stephanie, her address.
Does it pretty much include all the LTB forms, not so much the applications, but maybe some of the notices for evictions in N4?
Yeah, so let me show you. Yeah. So N4.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, pretty much has all the forms LATB has, right from L1 to N4 to even I believe the N10. That is increasing the rent, which I know. So pretty much all the documents. So here is N4, tenant's name, landlord's name, address of rental unit. Yep, I was, I believe we have a demo at 1:30 using this line, so I'll just like to wrap up if you don't mind, please, at this particular juncture. And I'm going to stop the recording.